Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before we hand the floor to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to put questions to this witness, the Chamber would like to President. The Chamber will make an announcement of the oral submission at a later stage when it is fully completed. We would like now to give the floor to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties. You may proceed. Civil party lawyer. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Mr. Witness, allow me to put more questions to you before our lunch break. I asked you some questions regarding the selection of people to attend the training. What were the criteria for the selection? Response. Thank you, Mr. President. That questions was related to the question that I was asked previously. I'd like to ask you back, are you referring to the technical training? Or what kind of training are you trying to aim at? Counsel. The people who were selected to attend the training, what were the criteria? For example, if A was selected, what were the criteria for the selection of A, or they looked at the social status of that person? Response. From what I knew and experienced, before people were selected to lead, they would be selected from the lower class, because Cambodian society was divided into separate categories, so the lower class would refer to the poor class. And as in my case, I was assigned to take that position, and I did not know clearly as to what was the criteria for my selection, but I did not have anything to hide in my biography. I I only knew that the selection was not favorable to those who were educated. And I myself strived very hard to do my work. Thank you. Question. What was the name of that particular social class? Whether it was known as the peasants class or workers class? And those who already attended the training, were they all kept at the Ministry of Propaganda, or were they also sent to various other ministries? Response. Are you only asking me about the events related to my own ministry or to other ministries? Within my ministry, I can respond that after the training, those people would be employed within that ministry. But as for other ministry or other trainings, I cannot tell you. Question. You said that people were selected for the training, and what I want to know whether after the training those people will be only kept at the ministry or were sent to other ministries. For instance, if you were trained for 6 months in the operation of the telecrime, were those people also sent to other ministries or only kept at that ministry? Response. The training was conducted within the ministry. However, there were a specialty that we took. Those who were with the typesetting would only attend the study session regarding that. And for those who engage in the training for repair would only engage in that particular training. So we were trained in a separate specialty. 2 or 3 people will be trained for one specific skill. Thank you. Let me go back a little bit. The event prior to the liberation of Phnom Penh, where were you before the liberation? Of course, you were in Kampong Chnang, but where were you physically located? Response. I think I already touched upon this issue this morning. Before 17 April, I at that time did not even know about the liberation, about the victory. Only after that, I was told that it's over, Phnom Penh was liberated. So we were transferred from our location near the riverside to a gathering point. And it was in Kampong Leng district, in Kampong Chnang province, which was my native village. Question. What I want to know is that while you were there and working there, did you meet any of the senior leaders? Whether any of them went to the location to conduct a meeting or to hold a meeting in order to make certain decisions? Response. While I was there, my direct supervisor would be the one who chairs the meeting. It was the company, and otherwise it would be the district battalion who would be the one who lead us and who also chaired the meeting. That was all. Thank you. You said that during the evacuation you went to receive those evacuees from the province. You would receive them and place them in various communes. The question is, once you have them placed at the communes, were the cooperatives created, and what were they asked to do? Response. From what I saw and knew regarding the evacuation of people from the province, we helped them to get to the cooperatives. But I did not stay close with those people living at the cooperative. It was under the arrangement of the chief of the villages and the communes. And from what I knew, they were asked to dig canals or to build dams. Thank you. At that time, did you hear people talking about the new people or the 17 April people or the best people? Response. Yes, I did hear these words. I heard 17 April people or the best people, which means the old people. As I said earlier, while I was in Phnom Penh, Nutia said we should stop using those words and try not to make a distinction between the old and the new people. But at that time I did hear all those words. Questioned. Upon hearing those words, did you see how they were categorized and what was actually happening on the ground when it comes to the distinction between these classes or this group of people? Response. After people were organized, and after that, I did not know what happened as I was with the military. And actually before I returned to Phnom Penh, I also worked in building canals and the dams within my unit. And those people, they did the same work as well. Thank you. Now I move on to another topic. Upon your arrival in Phnom Penh and you worked at the Ministry of Propaganda, at that time you only knew Poor, who later on you recognized as Hunam, then the minister of that ministry. When the ministry was under the management of Hunam, what was the administrative structure? For example, at the ministry there could be sections for monitoring news broadcast from overseas, or the documentation section. Can you confirm who was in charge in each respective section within the ministry? Response. Regarding the administrative structure within the ministry, I cannot give you the detail because I cannot recall them all. I was familiar only within my section and my work. Yes, you know, that was the time that we tried to mind our own business. So we did not try to put our nose into other people's business. Thank you. There were stages of the replacements of the leadership at the Ministry of Propaganda. After Hunam, there was Junyat, and later on there was Nuon Chia. My question is that since the ministry under the management by Hunam, then Junyat, then Nuon Chia, was there any change within the ministry? Response. I think my response could be a little bit long, but I'll try to make it brief. When I started working there, Hunam was in charge. And at that time, the food was not sufficient. But I did not know the exact duration of the time that the food was insufficient. We did have a problem with food at the time. And after that, from what I knew, sometimes we had bread mixed with the food at that ministry, and later on we could have cooked rice when the ministry was under the management of Nuon Chia. I could not speak for those people outside the ministry, but what I say here is what happened within the ministry. And we would have a dessert every 10 days. And this did not only happen as a principle, but in reality, yes, we got this food, and this principle was put into practice until the time the Vietnamese arrived and we fled. So that's how it happened. Previously, the food was insufficient, but later on, the food became enough to eat. Thank you. What I want is regarding the hierarchical structure of that ministry, whether the hierarchical structure was the same under the leadership of various people, including Hunam, Junjat, and Nunchir. Was there a reshuffling of the position within the ministry when the leadership changed? Or were there subsequent disappearances of staff working in the ministry? Response. Regarding the structure at my section, as far as I knew, there were forces from the east, and I was alone from the west. So those assisting forces were there. They were from the east. However, after the conclusion of the technical training and after Hunam was removed, I did not really know what was going on, but those forces were also removed. That's how I observed. Of course, I observed those removal, but I mainly focus on the work at hand. And when Junjat came to replace him, she would feel that those positions, the vacant positions, the people within my group and those people who were brought in, they were mainly from the southwest, and I trained those young people. So after I got my training from the Chinese instructor, later on I provided the training to those young people, so that they could be able to work there. That's how my focus was, but I did not know what happened to those who were removed. So, in brief, when it was about the structure, when the people from the east disappeared, there were those who came to fill their positions, and they were from the southwest. So I made a conclusion that maybe those people, they were from the same network, they were removed. And this is my understanding of the structure at that time. And I myself alone came from the west, so I remained there. And I touch upon that issue as well in my written record of the interview. Thank you. I want to ask you another question regarding this point. Why, after the disappearance of Junjat, Nunchi came to take charge? Response. After Nunchi came to replace Junjat. I did not know what was going on. The Council, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The English translation mentioned that Nuon Chea took over after Junjat's disappearance, but that is not the evidence before your chamber, just to point that out.
Civil Party lawyer, Mr. President, my question to the witness is that why Nuon Chea came to replace Junjat at the Ministry of Propaganda? I want to know the reason. President, you may put your question again. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to ask you briefly, Mr. Witness, what was the reason for Nuon Chea to go and replace Junjat? Response. I did not know the reason for Nuon Chea to come and replace Junjat. Thank you. Question. You said that there were people from the east, from the southwest, and from the west. My question is, those people who came from the west, from the east, who were they? And what about those from the southwest? Who were they? Response. I referred to those people who worked there, who worked with me during the initial training. As I recalled, there was no one from the southwest. There were only those from the east, and only I myself alone came from the west. And after the removal of Hunam, and I did not know the reason, those people also were removed. And when Junjat came to replace, and the force who were sent through for the training, they were sent from the southwest. And I alone came from the west. So I just tried to work hard, to focus on my work, as the rest were already removed. That's what I meant by different people from different zones.
Thank you, says the lawyer. Question. Do you know who the leader of the Southwest Zone was? Response. I never met him, or President. I know the Defense Counsel is on her feet. You may proceed, Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the Chamber and to all of the parties. I am objecting to the questions of my colleague working with the civil parties, because until now we were focusing on the Ministry of Propaganda, but now we are weighing towards the southwest zone, which is not part of the context of the first trial. So this is not relevant and should not be questioned.
Lawyer. Actually, the question is related to the testimony provided by the witness in question. That's why I simply ask this follow-up question. The President. Lawyer, you may proceed because this question has already been answered by the witness before. Counsel. When you came to work with Ministry of Propaganda, did you ever attend the party's congress? And if you did, where did you attend those congresses? Response. I've never attended the party's congress. I did attend other lower level meetings, namely the small-scale meetings. But as for congresses, I never attended those congresses. And I was actually concerned with my section affairs. We had the day-to-day business to operate in my section. That's why I dare not leave my workplace. Counsel. With your permission, Mr. President, I would like to present document E3/1550, Khmer ERN 0006662. English 00249844. French ERN 00766902. The President, you simply mentioned the document numbers, but can you please identify the document in a more precise manner? Lawyer. This morning, the prosecutor also presented this document. It was the confession by Ho Nim. The President, you may proceed then. Lawyer. I would like to read out one paragraph from Mr. Ho Nim's confession. I recall recently, after the Live View meeting at Borei Kaila School in 1976, I heard Kader Choi discuss Pok Chai and the organization of a new party. On this particular portion of the confession, I would like to ask for your comment whether or not you have heard of these particular pieces of information. Response. That I do not know, because it was the business of the upper echelon people from the party, and I was at the lower level, so I dealt mainly with technical work. I had nothing to do with that aspect. Question. This morning you said that you had seen the revolutionary flag magazine at the ministry. So when you saw those magazines, did you read them? Can you recall the format, the general format of this magazine? What did it look like? Response. I cannot recall it exactly, but as a matter of fact, I did see this revolutionary flag magazine, but as for the precise format of the magazine, I cannot recall. But of course, at that time, I did see those magazines, and they were meant for my colleagues to read those magazines, but I did not pay much attention to them. I did not bother to look at the exact format of the magazines. I would like to move on to another question. When you were attending training on telegraph, and upon the completion of your training, you were given some tasks to handle. What were the tasks assigned to you? Were you ever instructed to prepare any telegram for any other ministries? Response. Once some of the personnel from my section was taken away, I had to continue to train other newcomers. I was first attached to the section of telegraph repair, and as for typing of the telegram, it was not my main task, but since I was attached partly to that section as well, I learned to type them. So I, from time to time, learn to type telegraph, and there were trainings, on-the-job training as well, when I continue to learn how to type telegrams. And I did a lot of self-study myself. But when the foreign trainers came in, I did not study particularly on this typewriting, but I was mainly in charge of telegraph repair. But later on, I did some self-study on typewriting, and I received on-the-job training as well as through my self-study. And as for some of my colleagues who were removed, mainly they were from the former West zone. And at that time, we were supposed to handle our primary task, which was to repair the telegraph. But later on, I had to learn myself about how to type telegram. Lawyer. I would like to know the communication through messages. For example, if Ministry of Propaganda had to send a message to other ministry, did you ever involve in sending those messages to other ministry? And if you were involved, how did you send those messages to ministries? Response. Well, I have responded to this question so far. Normally, the document that I picked up from the printout, I had to have them retyped, and then we send that to the sending section, which continue to relay this message to the target offices. And I did not know where the messages were sent to. Question. When you were working with Hunam, did you know Hunam's son? Response. To the best of my recollection, I only knew some, and earlier on I did not realize that he was the son of Hunam. It was only later on that did I learn that he was the son of Hunam. I stayed there for quite some time, then I realized that he was the son of Hunam. Question. Did you ever witness the situation when monks were forced to defrock? Response. In relation to the defrock of monks, I testified about this with the investigators who interviewed me. At that, I told him that there were a situation of the defrock of monks. I heard of it as well. And in my home village, people talk about that as well because there were revolutionary movements going on at that time. There was movements starting from the early 1970s, and then it spread to my village. And then at that time, monks were required to defrock. That was the fact. I also learned about it. It happened in my home village as well. Question. Did you ever hear of the policy on the bad elements? What does it mean by the policy against bad elements, and how was it implemented, and until when was it implemented?
សំណួរនេះខ្ញុំ
Response. I am contemplating of the answer and response to the bad elements. I'm not quite clear with the question. I do not know what precisely do you want to know. When you mention bad elements, I am a bit unclear. I do not know where to start with my answer.
អរគុណខ្ញុំសូមបន្តទៀតពូ
Question. Well, then I had better move on because it's a bit difficult to explain the code language of the Democratic Cambodia. There were certain jargons of the Democratic Cambodia which reasonable people might find it difficult to understand. So during the Democratic Cambodia period, you were in Phnom Penh, and did you know that there was an existence of the so-called security office in Phnom Penh? Response. I merely heard of security center in Phnom Penh, but I never saw it myself. I heard it from my friends who told me about the existence of security center, but I did not even know its whereabouts. I did not know where it was located. I only heard it from my friends. Question. You made mention this morning to Office 870. And can you tell the court what this office was meant to be and where it was located? Response. I have heard of Office 870, but I never saw this office, and I did not know where it was located either. I only knew that this was the workplace of senior leaders. Lawyer Lau Ching Thi. Mr. President, I do not have any further question, and I would like to hand over to my esteemed colleague to continue the question. And I thank you, the witness, for responding to all my questions. Thank you. The President. Thank you, Counsel. Now, the International Council for the Civil Party, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, and to everyone in and around the courtroom. Good afternoon, Mr. QN. My name is Beini Yi. I am one of the International Civil Party lawyers, and I will put a few questions to you. I would like to start with the time before you worked at the Ministry of Propaganda and Information. You told us this morning that you worked as militiaman and soldier. My question is, how old were you when you were forced to join the revolutionary movements?
President.
The President, witness, please hold on. International Counsel for Mr. Ieng Sari, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I believe the gentleman indicated that he was not forced to join the revolution. He indicated that his village had been destroyed by the bombings. His house was burned down, and that he voluntarily joined the revolution. He wasn't forced, unless the question goes to being forced by the bombings and the conditions that were inflicted upon him and his fellow villagers. Thank you.
From my notes from this morning, the witness mentioned that he did not join voluntarily, but that his joining of the movement was forced by the Khmer Rouge forces. But maybe the witness can clarify on this point again.
Witness, please respond to the question. Response. Let me clarify on this issue. When I first joined the revolutionary movement, I first joined this revolution in 1973 when Lon Nol soldier was attacked by the revolutionary forces, and at that time my house and my entire village were burned down. That was the situation back then. So when people came back to their village, they saw nothing but ashes from the fire on their houses and village. And even if we saw our houses burned down, we did not want to join the revolutionary forces, but we also witnessed the hardship our parents had to endure at that time. So actually, if it was, it was not my personal desire to join the revolution. And when our house were burned down, we did not want to join the revolution either, because I had to help my parents. But the situation at that time was very pressing, and then they wanted people to work, and then I decided to become the village militiaman. I originally intended to become a medic myself, but then later on, taking into consideration the situation of my village, I wanted to leave my village because I did not want to see the hardship my villagers had to go through. And then, since there were lack of forces, then at the province level, the sector level, they wanted the forces from the district. And this was handed down to the lower rank in the administration. The district would want forces from the commune. So, due to these pressing circumstances, I had to join the revolution, but I did not join it on a voluntary basis, actually, but the situation really induced me to join the revolution at the time.
And how old were you at that time when you joined the movement?
Response. I do not recall how old I was at that time when I joined the revolution, but it could have been around 17 years of age at the time in 1970. But then in 1973, I could be about 2 or 3 years older than 17. But again, when I first joined the revolution, I did not even bother to remember my age, but when it was in 1970, I was 17 years old at that time.
Just for clarification, your birth date is in 1958, is that correct?
Response. I would like to clarify on this date. If you look at my ID card, citizen ID card, I mentioned in my birth date in the ID card 1958, but actually I was born in the year of snake. And if we calculated it based on the Khmer year, it would be in 1952 or 53 or so. But the date that you see on my ID card was actually a different one.
Okay, maybe that explains the different calculations that I make of your age when you were joining the movement. Let me come to the period when you were working at the Ministry of Propaganda and Information. You told us that after the disappearance of some of your colleagues, you also started to learn to typewrite telegrams. Can you tell us what the content of these telegrams were?
If you think of those who learned how to type, including myself, some could only learn the alphabet A, B, C, D, and then they could type. I myself did not study much, but I knew the alphabet. But I could not use it fluently. But I could know the alphabet well, and I could do some reading. And as for those who attended the training, mainly they were taught the alphabets. And once they knew the alphabet, then they learned to type. That was the process of engaging in the training. So they would ask us to do touch typing by recognizing the alphabets on the keyboard. So that's how we engage in the training at the time.
So did you actually type telegrams that were used or that were sent out?
I have not yet responded to any question regarding the sending out of the telegram, so I can respond. I can recall that when Noonchir came to take charge, the outgoing telegram was operational, and when it comes to the typing, we at our section did not know the content. We just followed the instructions. I did not know what happened in other developed countries, but in our section, after we finish the typing, then we use the tape to record the character. For example, each hole would represent an alphabet. But I did not really understand the content of the document. I only know how to put those on the tape with the holes representing the alphabets.
You said you were only following instructions when you were working with these telegrams. Who gave you these instructions?
That was just before Yunyat was removed. At that time, when I was with the new forces, I was instructed by her to give the training to those new people, and that by this month or that month, then the telegram would be sent out. So, after the existing force were removed, I tried to train the new forces so that they can work. But as for the date for it to be sent out, I cannot recall. It was just before Yunyat was gone.
In the English translation, it came across as before Yunyat was removed. Can you clarify whether Yunyat was removed or whether she just stopped working at the ministry for other reasons?
I did not know the reason for her to leave the ministry. And I also did not know the reason for Nuon Chea, who came to replace her. But that's how it was at the time.
Now, I would like to come to a topic that we've discussed before about the disappearances of the staff at your ministry. In your interview with the investigators, you said that two people, one called Som and one called Hun, also disappeared. The document source is E3438, English ERN 00375873, Khmer ERN 00373433, French ERN 00426431. I want to ask you first about the man named Som. Is this the same person that you mentioned before as the chairman of K33 and Hun Nim's son?
As I recall, there was only one Som at K33, and he was in charge of office K33.
For the record, I would like to note that Som is listed as a prisoner on the revised S21 prisoner list with the document number E3342, and the English and Khmer ERN are 00329840. He is listed as prisoner number 5619, and the position is comrade of K33 office, arrested from the Ministry of Propaganda on the 10th of April 1977 and executed on the 20th of July 1977. I would like to ask you now about the man named Hun. Do you recall in what office Hun was working?
Hun also worked in Office K33, but his work was separate from mine.
Thank you. And can you tell us until when these disappearances of staff, mainly from the East, continued?
The disappearance of those from the East. As for my section, I knew of their disappearance after Hunams was arrested. They were taken out successively, and I did not know what happened to them. And as I stated earlier, those people were removed, and then they were replaced by those people from the southwest. It seems at that time that most people from the east were gone and replaced by the southwest people. But I did not know what happens elsewhere, what happens to those who were removed.
Did these disappearances of ministry staff continue when Yun Yat took over and continue when Nunchia took over?
President, witness, please wait. International Council for Nunchia, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just maybe to not confuse the witness, the Council for the Civil Parties can break up the question. Thank you.
So I'll ask again just the first part of the question. Did the disappearances of ministry staff continue when Yun Yat took over?
When Yun Yat took over and at the ministry, it seems that the disappearance stopped for quite a while because those who were taken away were already taken away and they were replaced by the new people. So it was quiet. That's what happened at my section. I could not speak for other sections.
And when you say they stopped for quite a while, does that mean that the disappearances were restarted after some time?
Later on, after I received the forces from the southwest and that I trained them From I can recall, no one was removed. But once again, I could not speak about other sections. I only spoke for those within my section. There was no more disappearance. Thank you. Says the President, the time is appropriate for a short break. We will take a 20-minute adjournment and return at 3 p.m. Court officer, could you assist the witness during the break and have him returned at 3 p.m. The hearing is now adjourned.